Welcome to Venture TV. I'm here with Collison, the founder of Stripe. And for those of you who do not yet know what Stripe is, we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about the great story behind Stripe. So good to have you here, John.
Thank you for having me.
So for these out there who do not know Stripe, you're launching in Germany right now. So you are kind of new to Germany, although in the US and worldwide you are a multi-billion company. So you should know what Stripe is. Tell us what Stripe is.
We're launching Stripe in Germany today, which we're very excited about. Stripe is a way for online businesses to accept money from any customer in any currency around the world. And we're also increasingly providing a lot of the software that people use to run their businesses. If you're running a marketplace or subscription or some kind of internet company like this. Previously, Stripe had been launched in 17 countries. Now we're adding Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Germany, obviously, huge EU market, and we're very excited to serve German startups and hopefully see more German startups get started.
So you are a huge company. Can you talk about some numbers, valuations, employees?
Absolutely. Stripe is 750 people. We now support hundreds of thousands of businesses around the world. But generally, the way we think about the Stripe opportunity is not just serving the existing e-commerce market, it's about growing the size of the online economy. And so in Germany, the online economy accounts for 3.7% of the total economy. We think that could be much larger if we had better infrastructure, better tools for people actually building online businesses so that hopefully more of them can get started.
And how did the world work before Stripe came into place? Like, how did it work?
Oh man, so I have very direct experience with this because this is basically how we got the idea for Stripe. Patrick, my co-founder at Stripe, he and I had started an internet business before Stripe. And you might wonder, what's the hard part of starting an internet business, right? Is it building the product or coding it up or finding customers or anything like that? Honestly, the hardest part was actually accepting money from people remotely. This was what we discovered. And so we just filed that idea away, and then when time came, that we were thinking about our next startup, we said, there must be a better way. Because previously, online payments have been the domain of financial institutions and old-fashioned payment companies who didn't really get this internet thing, didn't realize that increasingly this is a problem rooted in code and software, not finance. And so that's how we actually came at the problem.
Yep. And you are now based in Silicon Valley, US, but you're not originally American. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Ireland, and so it's useful to be able to bring the European perspective in Silicon Valley. I moved out first to the United States for college, and then while in college, that was where Patrick and I had this idea for Stripe, started coding it. Originally, it was a part-time thing while we were at school, and of course, as these things often snowball, we ended up taking time off from school and working on Stripe full-time.
When did this entrepreneurial fever get to you? Was that during college, or was that even in Ireland, or when did it happen? Or was it never there, and it was just that you had that idea that you wanted to become true?
I think, like a lot of people, I really like this hacker culture, experimentation culture. It's not that I wanted to be an entrepreneur when I grew up, I didn't. But you're just used to experimenting with things and launching an idea and seeing what happens with it. In fact, most frequently when I've been in Berlin, it has been for CCC, the Chaos Communication Congress. Right. There's a few years when I went to that, and I love that kind of technology tinkering culture. And so I think frequently with companies in their early stages, or at least with Stripe, it's not that you set out to build this large enterprise, it's that you set out to solve a problem and you start building something better, and then you chase it, right? Stripe started out as 2 people, we were coding the first version of Stripe, talking to customers, and then you keep pulling on the thread and you start following that problem to its natural conclusion, and that's where it's led us.
Some people start with a big dream to become billionaire. Was that also always in your mind, or how was it? Did you have that dream of, oh my God, this will become big, or was that just like a little solution to a big problem? How was that?
No, for us the motivation was always, it started with this frustration at how things were working. Because think about it, we should be offended. It is 2017 and we have 3 or 4 billion people connected to the internet, and you would think it'd be a fairly fundamental piece of infrastructure, the idea that we can trade with other people on the internet, and yet we can't. It's really hard. And you have some sort of quasi-solutions. You have credit cards in the Europe and Western countries. You have Alipay and WeChat in China. You have different schemes again in India and Indonesia and every country you go to. But it's kind of like the DVD region lock system. You have the same technology, but it doesn't interoperate. And so we should be offended that in 2017, the economic infrastructure available to people for trading online is so complex. That was what motivated to get started. We've made significant progress on that mission and now supporting hundreds of thousands of businesses around the world. But we also still have plenty left to go. So that's what motivates us, is that frustration doesn't go away. We can see where we want Stripe to be in 5 or 10 years' time, and that's what gets you out of bed in the morning.
What's the current valuation of Stripe?
At the most recent funding round, Stripe was valued at $9 billion.
So that is a big number. So the question is, where in this process do you earn money to get such a valuation? There's so much in the company, obviously, that it's worth so much. So where's the money-making part?
So Stripe has a pretty simple revenue model. It's not speculative, it's not that first we get lots of users and then we figure out, oh gosh, how do we monetize this product? With Stripe, we help people make money on the internet. Every time people accept money with Stripe, we get a small fraction of that as the fee. And so we like it because that's a very aligned business model. If you're starting a new business, we don't make money until you make money, and so we're very aligned to help you get that business off the ground. Yeah. And similarly, we're very aligned to help you grow that business and be more successful. And there often are opportunities for this. Take Europe. In Europe, a lot of people don't realize this, but only 16% of EU e-commerce is cross-border. And so the vast majority is domestic. And people don't think this because they hear about the single digital market and everything like this. But actually, there's huge opportunity for European companies just to become more export-oriented, even within Europe. And so for us, with our revenue model, the easiest way for us to make 20% more money with a customer is for them to have 20% more sales, which is often very attractive.
Yeah. How did it happen that two guys from Ireland started a company that's rolling out in the whole world right now, that has a huge valuation? Why didn't the big credit card companies or all the companies that did that job before do it? Why did you have enough space to grow so big?
I think one of the biggest things that has changed is that the internet and now increasingly mobile has changed the distribution channels through which people reached customers. Yep. And so really what all this fintech talk is about is the fact that it used to be the case that to get any kind of financial service, you had to go directly to your bank, and now it's possible to log on to some service online and to get service instead from someone else. And so maybe in the case of building a business online and accepting payments, that's Stripe. Maybe in the case of a consumer bank, that's Monzo in the UK. Maybe in the case of foreign exchange, it's TransferWise. But that's what's changed, is the new distribution models and new opportunities enabled by the internet. And I think the question for incumbent companies is, which happens faster? Does a small company get to scale with this new distribution model, or can the large company adapt to the new distribution model and change their product to accommodate it? And it's not clear which way those battles will happen. And I think the common narrative in technology is that the disruptors always win, but that's not the case. You have plenty of examples of established companies very successfully innovating within the online space. And so this is something that we spend a lot of time talking with large companies about when they use Stripe. You have Salesforce in the United States using Stripe to build the app exchange. Here in Germany, we work with Daimler. You wouldn't tend to think of Daimler as a technology startup, but they actually built Cruve, a ride-sharing service on Stripe. And so, not ride-sharing, a car rental service or a car exchange service on Stripe. And so this is a pattern we increasingly see, is it's sort of a race between the big companies who realize that the startups are nipping at their lunch versus the startups. Yeah.
As our last question, when you look at the Stripe story, it just looks one giant success. Were there any moments that you regretted, or things that you would never do again? And if yes, which were these things?
Oh, I mean, it always looks simpler on the outside, right? Because, exactly, when you look outside into a company, it just looks like this gradual, smooth success, and it's kind of like the duck on the water, gliding along smoothly on the surface and paddling furiously underneath. And so it's often much more complex inside the company. Stripe has certainly made lots of mistakes along the way. Maybe at various points we did not have the right product, and then later on we realized, oh, this is actually what customers need, and corrected it. And so, people think that companies are divided into before product market fit and after product market fit. It's not that case at all, because you're constantly launching new products, and so it's really about continually finding product market fit. So, in terms of mistakes we've made along the way, I can point to cases where we, spent many years searching for product market fit, where honestly, in retrospect, the answer was quite obvious to us all along, but that's only in hindsight. So those are the sorts of mistakes that you end up making. I mean, if we'd made any kinds of catastrophic mistakes, we wouldn't be here today.
Sure.
And so those are more the sorts of mistakes that you end up making.
Were there any things that made you really successful, like really, really big things that changed a lot to the positive?
I think for any successful company, you need to think about not just what your product is, but what your market is. And it's rare that you have a really successful company that has a good product in a terrible market. You need a good product and a good market. I think we have really benefited from, honestly, this is no credit to us, we've benefited from the fact that the internet is going along and kind of entering all these traditionally offline businesses, and so we do not do the work for this. It's all Stripe customers, where you have people digitizing industries that would traditionally have been offline.
Cool. Very interesting. Thanks for the talk and good luck for the launch in Germany.
Thank you very much.
Bye, John.